Hey guys, long time no see. Sorry it's been so long since I've recorded a game. I think it's been at least 5 weeks or so, and I've just been busy with traveling and work and obligations and life and all that stuff. But I'm sure nothing happened in the interim between the last time I recorded a video for you guys and now when I'm finally logging in to do that. Oh wait, right. Not quite. As you know, there's been a major upheaval for online Magic that actually immediately spread to paper Magic as well, by extension of the fact that anything that Wizards would do officially to a format will certainly have an effect and an impact on real world formats, even if they are released with the giant caveat that they were only intended for online play. And of course, that's exactly what happened in the aftermath of the giant announcement that 1 versus 1 EDH is now an official WotC-sponsored format online with its own tournaments and leagues and everything else. And naturally, the announcement was met with extremely mixed results by the community. Of course, the major issue being that the announced ban list was said to apply to not only 1v1, but also to multiplayer, which was an oversight that the company immediately retracted within a day, announcing that a couple months from now, I think or maybe even less actually, in mid to late June, the two formats will be separated and 1v1 will be its own thing with its own ban list, and they'll go back to using the community-sponsored ban list for multiplayer, which I think is the best compromise. However, in the meantime, of course, there's lots of games to be played and lots of games to be had. And I actually played this game a little while back, and a little secret that I can't go into detail about, but I've actually known about the contents of the upcoming ban list for quite some time and had some feedback on it as well. And so in the last couple of weeks before the ban list went live, I was surreptitiously playing a post-ban list version of several of my favorite decks, and just to sort of test the waters and see how they felt against fully fledged designs. Obviously, I have the advantage of the fact that I know that I'm playing a completely 1v1 devoted competitive format deck, and they're probably most likely playing a more casual multiplayer version, which should give me the advantage despite the fact that they are able to play with the cards that are now on the ban list. And the first game I've got for you in this series, which is actually going to be rather extensive, I think it's going to be a total of 12 or 13 games, is a good demonstration of how a post-ban list deck stacks up against a pre-ban list deck, when the general that your opponent is using is not all that strong, but they're aided tremendously by the fact that they get to play with a few of the ban cards. I bet you can guess which one is featured in this game. I'm up against Blitzkrieg XD1, and looks like I'm going first. He is playing with Phenax, the god of deception. So blue-black commander, certainly not among the top-tier ones. It's kind of a niche milling strategy and a little hard to deploy, mainly because it's pretty hard to get devotion in blue-black in general, especially seven colored mana devotion, because you're not really into putting a lot of creatures into play. Plus, this guy is actually contingent on putting creatures into play and doesn't really function without a fair number of creatures in play unless you've got a ton of, I guess, black and blue enchantments or something like that in order to turn him on and mill with just him. But either way, it's a pretty underwhelming effect, and pales in comparison with things like, obviously with Dralnu and a few other blue-black generals. And I am playing the mighty Breya. But keep in mind, this is the post-nerf Breya, the post-banless Breya, that doesn't contain at least, I think, 13 or 14 cards on the ban list were in this deck prior. It's a really good game, actually, to showcase some of the new features of the new format. All right, here we go. It's certainly a keepable draw. I've got Mox Diamond, which is now arguably the best accelerator that exists, at least in artifacts, in all of EDH now, completely overshadowed by Crypt, Soul Ring, and Mana Vault, which are no longer available. And I have actually a perfect hand to tithe with, given the fact that I can play both a fetch land and the Mox Diamond turn one. So when he plays I'm able to develop my mana, and even when he plays a land, I should be able to sack the Verdant Catacombs and cast Tithe with it. At least I guess I have to tutor for it. And then I muck it all up by playing Volcanic Island without even thinking. So it's going to take a turn or two before that actually happens. All right, Jwar Island Refuge. Pretty much an indication that his deck is not top tier, given the fact that there's enough blue-black lands that don't come into play tapped that you don't have to resort to one of those. So end of turn, I'm going to Mystical Tutor, which will allow you to get a quick gander at the new build. And this deck is absolutely in flux, as are all of my post-ban list decks. There's still a lot of decisions that have to be made just based on how the format is shaking up, because I really don't know too much about it yet. I've only watched and played a few games in the post-ban list environment because it just literally went live today. And time will tell to see whether or not this deck is even viable and whether it's viable in the current format. But you can see when I'm casting Mystical Tutor, I'm missing cards like Mind Twist, and there are no Soul Rings and no Mana Crypts in here, no Mana Vaults. The deck's slower, but has some adjustments. And I'll go into more detail about this when I do the inevitable Breya deck tech. I'm actually glad that I didn't do that before, although I guess it still applies to multiplayer. I'm getting tied, though. There it is right there off the top, so I can play the Mox Diamond. And I'm just going to wait for him to play a second land here. Hopefully it comes into play tap just like his first one. I can Tithe unscathed, because if he counters Tithe, I could be in bad shape. Well, let's see what happens here. Yeah, if I had done it in the reverse order. Well, I guess if I played the Mox Diamond, I could have Mystical Tutored off the Mox Diamond with the Verdant Catacombs in play and then untapped and cast Tithe. No matter what, he wouldn't have been able to stop it. I would have been able to get 2 land here, and I would have had 3 in play instead of just 2. So you can see how bad of a mistake that was. Fortunately, he just got a Swamp, and then it transitions into a Soul Ring. I'm just going to Tithe in response because he doesn't have the mana to do something like a Miscalculation or Mana Leak or Remand or something, or Negate. I'm going to get two Tundras since I've got red and black already. All right, Deprive. Now, normally I would Fabricate here in a heartbeat, given the fact that it's unlikely he can counter it, and I could go get something like Mana Crypt or Soul Ring, which would allow me to ramp into Tezzeret. You can just see how different the deck plays when you don't have access to those 2 cards. Fabricate just loses so much of its potency, especially its early game potency. Obviously, late game, you have all the flexibility of fetching Shackles and not Grim Monolith, Crucible of Worlds, and bigger mana things like Grand Dynamo and Gilded Lotus. But in the early game, it's just not quite as good. Not quite as good at all. Neither is Trinket Mage. I'm just going to sit here on Deprive and see what he does because he's got 5 mana. I probably would not actually even counterspell his God if he played it because it doesn't actually even do anything. Sitting in play, unlike some of the other gods, like Erebos, for example, which is deadly even when you don't have devotion. All right, Praetor's Grasp. Knock yourself out, man. I do not even have anything, I think, worth taking. At least not in the 5 to 6 mana range, since I'm not playing with the mana artifacts. I'm not going to counter that. I'm going to save this Deprive for something more important, because I have a plan here involving that Fabricate. And given the fact that he's almost certainly either light on creatures or nearly creatureless, I'm pretty sure the Treachery is useless. So I can replace that for something else in my hand. And drawing Whir of Invention is kind of handy too, but I'm going to Fabricate because the Whir is instant speed and probably a little more flexible. I'm actually going to get Chrome Mox, one of the new additions to the deck. This is just to develop the mana further. And I decide that I'm going to keep the Treachery just in case he is playing with some creatures, figuring that he's got to have something big in here that he may want to turn his General on with. And I don't see the Whir being all that handy, given the fact that I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I could cast the Whir of Invention a little bit later to go get something like the Crucible. Shackle's not too useful, though. There just aren't that many good targets for Whir of Invention, honestly, in the deck anymore. It was primarily in there to get Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. All right. Windfall. All right. Well, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I really, really want this Tezzeret. And my hope here is that if I Deprive and he counters back, well, I guess I would lose the Tezzeret. That's true. Well, my hope is just to Deprive because I really want to get the Tezzeret. And I suspect that he may not have any counter spells because he's been willing to tap out anyway. And if I can land the Tezzeret, then we can get some good stuff going on. All right. There's nothing. And I feel like there's an open here, considering the fact that he probably wanted the Windfall to resolve that I can get the Tezzeret on board. And unfortunately, he's got just a plain old counter spell. I'm pretty sad about that. And notice also, of course, that it's this exiled card, which is a little troubling about what that could be. We're about to find out. 7 mana, tap out. Oh, look, that's what he got. My Karn Liberated. That is not good at all, given the fact that I am down to just 2 cards in hand. So suddenly I am basically just blown out by this. I mean, I do have the ability to get Breya, but it's already up to It's already up to 10 counters. As you know, Karn just gets huge immediately if you don't have to exile something right away. And so fighting through a Karn Liberated with 10 counters on it is a serious pain in the ass, no matter what. Even with Breya, I guess it takes, because he can exile Breya next turn. I hit 2 birds into the Karn, which will reduce it down to 5, and then he'll ramp it up again all the way back up to 9, and so the birds can't even chip it down at that point. I would have to get Breya out again. But then I draw Jace the Mind Sculptor. Still legal, fortunately. I'm going to play him, because there's certainly nothing better to do. It lets me draw 3 instead of just 2. My hope is really to hit a land here so that I can cast Night's Whisper as well and increase my hand size to soak up some of the Karn Liberated while I look around for an answer. And when I do that, right on top is Vindicate, which is fantastic and one of the reasons why you play Breya in the first place, to get access to all the Esper goodies in addition to red. And I'm just going to cast Night's Whisper here to get Counterspell and Vindicate. So my hope here is that he uses Karn rightfully to kill off Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is almost certainly the right play anyway, and that allows me to Vindicate and Counterspell in the same turn if he does have a playback for that. So that's how I expect the next turn to play out here. And I'll be way behind, but not completely out of it. He plays a Wayfarer's Bauble, sacks it inexplicably. He's tapping some more mana, and he just plays his Phenax. Not too useful right now. And sure enough, gobbles up Jace. So he's at 7 counters. But I've got my opening. I don't even need to use my counterspell to force it through, which is fantastic. So even though I feel like I've been kind of crushed this game, given the fact that he had Karn Liberated out for a few turns, that he stole it from me, that he had Soul Ring early, I don't really feel that far behind. I mean, I guess he's a little ahead of me in mana. It's like 9 to 6, I guess. So I'm 3 behind in mana, and he's got his God on board. But the God doesn't actually even do anything, and I actually have 2 very active cards in my hand. So feeling pretty in this game still. And then he plays House in Your Elixir. I guess that's in there to go with his General. But dude, you gotta like activate the General first. Alright, no question here. I'm just gonna play Breya and put some pressure on. I fully expect him to counter this. And I'm not gonna be sad if that happens, because it just means there's 1 less card I have to deal with in his hand. But sure enough, Breya sticks, which makes me wonder what he is holding on to. I still haven't seen any creatures from him at all, and he plays Mana Vault. Another banned card. And certainly irrelevant right now. Draw Thran Dynamo. Fantastic card to hit right now, because I can cast it and still counter, and that amplifies my mana by 50% more. Plus, it's going to give me extra food to potentially sack to Breya, and allows me to chain cast Breya if I need to. So that's just about one of the best cards I could draw. And I've got 3 counterspells in hand too. Alright, he's tapping a bunch of mana. He plays Memory Plunder. Card I don't know if I've ever seen this card played ever. From an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost, so he's clearly just going for my Mystical Tutor. So he's got another card that's very contingent on his General working and doing stuff, which it hasn't been this whole game. Alright, that's fine. Go ahead and tutor. Use another thing from my deck, bro. Alright, Arid Mesa. Just smash. No, and I just clicked too quickly here and didn't attack with the Thopters. So I just let him heal for 2, which is unfortunate, but hopefully won't be decisive. And then end of turn, he casts, I assume he got from his, or my Mystical Tutor. It must have been actually, right? Oh no, I guess maybe he tutored for Whispering Madness. Weird. I guess that's what he got with Mystical Tutor. I wasn't even looking. He casts Cyclonic Rift with Overload, with only 1 mana available. Easily mana leak that. It's just a no-brainer. I don't know why he didn't untap his Mana Vault there. He's got 1,000,000 mana and nothing to do with it. Because he just felt like taking some damage. It's probably just because he's in the old Commander mindset, where when you've got 40 life, you just don't even care about taking damage from Mana Vault. It's pretty much irrelevant, especially against a control deck. But in this new format, in this brave new world, you only have 30 life, and he's already down to 14. And I've got a bunch of artifacts on board, which means he dies in 1 more attack. Go back to his turn. Just takes another damage for no reason. And then he plays... I mean, keep in mind that if you've got a Mana Vault in play, and you're absolutely certain, or I say unless you're absolutely certain you need every single available mana, spending 4 mana, including a Soul Ring, to untap it, you only lose 1 net mana. So it's very seldom... It's very seldom correct to just sit there and take indiscriminate damage from Mana Vault, unless you're under tremendous pressure that isn't life pressure and you think you might need every single mana source that's available. So he casts Eater of the Dead, which is, of course, a very, very cool combo with his general, because you can basically, you can see it's a 3/4. So with this guy, creatures you control have tapped, target player puts top X cards. So if you are in a big multiplayer game, you could potentially deck multiple people with the Eater of the Dead, which is kind of awesome, actually, because it taps to mill for 3 continuously. And if there's lots of creatures in the graveyard, you just go mill, 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 and that puts more creatures in the graveyard, and you just wind up killing somebody with it. But in multiplayer, well, you can just look at the graveyards, right? There's actually 0 creatures in either graveyard, so it does nothing. But that does, I guess... 3 less than 7. What the hell? I wonder why I got the ability. Why did I get the ability? He only has Devotion 3 right now. I'm a little baffled by why it's imprinted on the card. I don't remember that actually being on there. I think that that's a bug, because I don't think the creature actually had that ability when we played. So then he's going to cast Night Howler on it, which increases the cost up to 5. It's kind of cool. Night Howlers are flowers, in case you've seen Zootopia. So, of course, when he tries to enchant it to pump up its toughness, I'm just going to use Breya to blow it out of the water. Kills it easily. And now he just gets a 1/1. Pretty harmless. Just going to bash in. There's another Mox. I'm actually running all 3 of those, because they're all the good accelerators. And now he's down to 9. Takes another manifold damage. Cast Mnemonic Wall, and I'm just going to counter this because it blocks Breya for a turn. We're just going for the throw here. And you cast that Whispering Madness that would do practically nothing other than ciphering his guy. I mean, he would literally draw 1 card, but I would lose my counterspell for no reason. So, of course, this is a no-brainer counterspell. He can attack. Let's not do that. So, end of turn, I'm just going to blow his guy up. Because the math works out here just right. I hit him for 4. Blitzkrieg, I don't need to see your message. Sack Breya, take him to 1, replay Breya. I've got the mana for lethal. And that is the game. First game that I featured of the new ban list versus a non-ban list deck. I think I only have 1 or 2 more in this series that are like that. And then a big majority of the games are when I've transitioned over to playing. Actually, no, I take that back. Of course, they're all games where I'm playing against fully fleshed out decks with my ban list decks. But I actually have a few games in here where I'm playing my old versions as well, just for nostalgia's sake before they all go away. Anyway, I've got a lot more games to record, and I've got some other interesting related videos to stuff in the format coming up in the weeks ahead to stay tuned for. But I hope you enjoyed that one, and I've got many more to come. See you soon.